I was going to do this on Facebook, or the Facebook business page, Health Without Risk, but there is not an option to do a live video on that page that I can find. So I may not know what I'm doing with that. Okay, so what I want to tell you about today is some supplements and some antioxidants that you can think about while we go through this COVID-19 or coronavirus crisis. So the actual name has now been named as SARS-CoV-2, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus type 2. So that's what they're calling it now. COVID-19. It started as coronavirus, then it was COVID-19, now it's SARS-CoV-2. So background, just so everybody knows, I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry from St. Louis University. I graduated in 1982, and I have a medical doctorate from the University of Missouri-Columbia. I practiced from 1986 to 2017. Now I'm a health coach, and kind of the whole point of what I'm doing here is giving you some options for things that you don't have to go get a prescription for, so these over the counter. And of course, most of the medical education boils down to pharmaceuticals, and the pharmaceutical industry, when people start looking at supplements, they'll always say, well, there's more studies that need to be made and hasn't been proven in humans, etc., etc. Well, these are quite a bit less expensive than the pharmaceuticals that you get prescribed. You don't need to have insurance to get these. And of course, since they're less expensive and there's not as much, I guess, profit to be made, nobody's going to do huge, enormous studies on supplements, especially ones that have been around forever. So basically, what we talked about Monday was the fact that this virus potentially is attacking hemoglobin and displacing, especially it's called a non-functional protein, is replacing the ferrous ion, Fe2+, off of the hemoglobin molecule, which is what carries your oxygen. So that may be why there is hypocapnia and there is cyanosis and less oxygen delivery. And this doesn't appear, at least from a New York Times video of physicians that I put up yesterday, that are saying this does not look like ARDS or adult respiratory distress syndrome. And so these people they aren't necessarily fatigued, so they don't get the muscle fatigue that a lot of people get for respiratory failure. They're still talking, they're just cyanotic, and they have reduced oxygen. Yes, there are times that you have to have ventilatory support, etc., especially if you have respiratory failure. But there was one doctor in that video that said he was seeing partial oxygen pressures of 10 and 20% based on pulse oximetry. Well, that's incompatible with life, but these people are still talking. So the question becomes, what happens if you displace iron? Well, if you displace iron and you have it running around your bloodstream, it is inflammatory. And you can measure that by doing a ferritin level. Good morning, Ken. Hey, you all. Sorry I'm not on the business page, but I could not figure out how to do a live video on the big business page, so I'm on this one, and I'll put it up on Health Without Risk later. So basically, you have a situation, potentially, and this is coming out of China, where ferritin levels are high in these people that die, and ferritin is a measure for oxidative stress and inflammation. So I thought, okay, so if we have an oxidative reactive oxygen species that is being generated, specifically, like Monday we talked about the hydroxyl group and the peroxyl group, both of which are highly toxic, and you do need some reactive oxygen species just to fight off infection, so it's not all bad. What's bad is if you have so much oxidative stress, it starts breaking down your cell membranes. And over time, that can lead to all kinds of diseases like cancer and atherosclerosis, etc., etc. So the three main antioxidants that we're going to talk about, and then some more stuff, is vitamin C, vitamin E, and glutathione. Okay, and I do have to look down. I spent half the night kind of writing stuff out so I knew where I was headed. Okay, so what happens, the chemistry, since I have a chemistry degree, I'll teach you a little chemistry, and maybe a little medicine as well. There are 3 enzymes that play roles in protecting cell membranes from oxidative stress. Okay, the first one is superoxide dismutase. Some of this may make sense to those of you that are nurses. Morning, Jim. Hey, Beth. And some of you, I'm going to say things that you probably never heard before. My son watched this Monday and he says, well, he says, my science isn't my forte. I kind of got what you were talking about. I do try to make this as non-medical friendly as possible so that you know what I'm saying. But there are certain things like superoxide dismutase, there's no other way to say that. So it's an enzyme that protects your cell membrane. That particular enzyme is dependent on manganese, copper, or zinc for its antioxidant properties. Okay, so that makes you think, well, I should take a bunch of copper, and I should take a bunch of manganese, and I should take a bunch of zinc. Well, zinc we're going to talk about. And then my disclaimer I'm going to give you is, like every supplement over the counter or whatever, I'm not telling you this is going to fix anything. I'm telling you that there is evidence that you can boost your immunity and you can correct vitamin deficiencies. Most of this stuff that we're going to talk about you can get in your food, and that is a lot of people say, well, just eat right and all that. Well, most Americans don't eat right. We know that. We have this huge epidemic of obesity, right? And we have type 2 diabetes that's rampant. We have prediabetes and metabolic syndrome. So saying that you can get it from your diet is true, but most people aren't going to do that. So that's why a lot of people recommend supplements, okay? However, the disclaimer is these statements have not been approved or evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. So I'm not saying they're going to cure anything. I'm not going to say they're going to fix anything. I'm going to say that there's evidence that they will reverse deficiencies that you may not get in your diet. And then there are some people who have deficiency whether or not, even though they eat well. Okay, so I got sidetracked because I forgot to give you that little disclaimer. So this is not a recommendation. It's not do it. It's not advice. It's just information. And then you do what you want. Okay. Okay. The second enzyme involved in protecting your cell membrane is called catalase, and it finishes the antioxidant reaction that started by the first one, superoxide dismutase. Okay. And what it does is it takes peroxide, and peroxide is generated through metabolism. You do have peroxide in you. But what you want to do is break it down into stable compounds. So a reactive oxygen species has a free electron on it, and that's not stable. So when we're talking about these antioxidants, we're talking about ways that you can combine that free electron with a hydrogen atom, which has a positive charge. Electron has a negative charge. And then you form a stable compound instead of this little free radical running around electrocuting your cell, and you're just electrocuting all over your body. So catalase in addition with superoxide dismutase, will take hydrogen peroxide, and instead of breaking it down to a hydroxyl radical, which then affects your cell membrane, oxygen then converts that to a peroxyl radical, both of which are toxic. So SOD, superoxide dismutase, and catalase breaks peroxide down to water and oxygen. That's something your body knows, right? Okay. And then the other one is glutathione peroxidase. So that's the third one. So it's a tripeptide. It's got 3 proteins in it. And there's they work together with selenium. So we're going to talk about selenium as well. Okay, and what that does is degrade hydrogen peroxide to alcohols for easy elimination. So alcohol, your body knows what alcohol is and what to do with it, right? It knows what to do with water. It knows what to do with CO2. It knows what to do with oxygen. And it knows what to do with things that come up in nature. Okay, so when I talk to people about trying to get, and part of health coaching is getting people to realize that the vast majority of chronic disease can be reversed, one, and it can be reversed naturally, two, and most of the natural supplements arise in nature, right? There is no such thing as a Prozac tree. There's no such thing as a Lipitor tree. It doesn't grow in nature. But vitamin D is a natural compound. Vitamin C is a natural compound. So the vast majority of these medications that we take, and we're talking about medications in general, are not based naturally. Okay, it's like when I tell people they're trying to lose weight, I said eat real food. So shop the periphery of the grocery store and buy stuff that actually grows. There's no such thing. So your body knows what to do with a steak or a vegetable or a fruit. It doesn't know what to do with a Twinkie or a ho-ho. Okay, so let's get into some of this. So the three big antioxidants that I looked at. Vitamin E, which is an anti-inflammatory vitamin because of its antioxidant properties, and it promotes immunity. So that's two things. So you have an immune response to the coronavirus, right? You need an immune response. The problem is that the immune response can get out of hand. And we talked about that Monday with cytokine storm. So that's one of the reasons that people get so ill respiratorily. So they get a ground glass X-ray, and that's why they were thinking that this is adult respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, so vitamin E as far as antioxidant, etc. I looked up a paper from 1990, so this isn't new, and neither is vitamin E for that matter. And so what it does is prevent spread of reactive oxygen species, or what people call free radicals, by trapping peroxyl radicals. So we talked about peroxyl being broken down from hydrogen peroxide to hydroxyl, and then combination with oxygen, which turns into peroxyl. Well, vitamin E runs around and gobbles those up. So you're looking for scavenges, and peroxyls just cause widespread membrane damage. And eventually, if you get enough, if you get acute damage, that's when apparently this is turning into widespread and multiple organ failure. Over time, so if you have an acute surge of free radical formation and you're destroying all your cell membranes, you're going to be in trouble. Over time, most of this has to do with the development of chronic diseases. So if you can reverse this, or if you can scavenge these out of your body, then potentially you're not going to get some of these awful chronic diseases that you wind up taking medications for that don't cure anything, and you just remain sick. You have the same disease. I tell people all the time, you can reverse type 2 diabetes, and people say, well, no, even doctors, and so I was trained that's a chronic disease. You'll always be a type 2 diabetic. That's not true. I have reversed type 2 diabetes on I don't know how many people over the last 20 years by teaching how to eat and how to take certain supplements, and lo and behold, next thing you know, they're not technically diabetic if you look at their labs. So vitamin E is part of that. So the second one is vitamin C. Okay, vitamin C, everybody's, well, I'm old enough, I probably remember Linus Pauling. You may have heard of Linus Pauling. And he kind of got famous. He was a chemist. He kind of got famous, well, he did get famous back in the early 70s by recommending higher doses of vitamin C supplementation. And he claimed that that would cure or stave off the common cold. Okay, well, he based his viewpoint on a study he did in 1970 on teenagers that were at a ski camp in the Swiss Alps. And he found that, now why he did this at a ski school or ski camp, and did it with teenagers, and I don't know how many that were in the study, but if he gave them a gram of vitamin C, and I'm not sure he had a placebo group necessarily, but he found that a gram of vitamin C would reduce the onset of colds, and if somebody got a cold, reduce the duration of symptoms. So he became a big proponent of vitamin C supplementation. He did recommend in the early 70s that everybody take 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, which is the maximum dose, even when you talk to a registered dietitian. They'll say don't take more than that. But then he went on to say, survey says, ooh, he's recommending 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. That's too high. But his comment was, it's the first 250 milligrams that's the most important. So he doesn't necessarily say that you have to take 2,000 milligrams, but he said the first 250 milligrams of vitamin C is way more important than any subsequent 250 milligrams. So the recommended dose usually 250 milligrams. A physician friend of mine from Florida, whose entire family got COVID in February, I believe is what he told me. He was giving his family, each of them, and I think it was him and his wife and 3 children, maybe to 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. And apparently kind of knocked this out for his for his family, amongst the several other things that we kind of talked about as well. So up to 10,000 milligrams a day. And when I made that list last week, I put that dose down as up to 10,000 milligrams a day. I don't think you need to do that for long term. Are you going to get in trouble? Probably not. It's probably well tolerated. Usually if you take a supplement and your body doesn't need it, you just eliminate it. And I taught my students the kidney system yesterday. So renal clearance of a lot of this is fairly easy. Your body knows how to handle that. Okay. My son asked me about vitamin C 6 weeks ago. I told him there was no data on infection. There's some, but overall vitamin C, as far as getting rid of a cold, it's kind of lacking. Okay. However, if you are a physically fit person, so you're a heavy exercise person, now this is proven. If you exercise heavy and you get a cold, if you take high-dose vitamin C, so 2,000 milligrams a day, that's a 50% reduction in those type of people. So is that from just exercise, or can you extrapolate that to everybody that's under a lot of stress? Well, most people are under stress. And part of the problem with this entire stay at home and not being around and doing your social things and your social distancing is the fact that we know that chronic disease is going to flare when people aren't moving as much or doing what they usually do. So the stress component of that is making, I think, a lot of chronic illnesses a problem. We also know that alcohol and drug use is going to go up, so I'm wondering if people that have an addiction are being triggered by social isolation, although they do tend to isolate, so isolation may not be bothering them. But alcohol sales are doing very well right now. I'm not sure what street drug sales are. I don't know that for sure. So now the other interesting thing about vitamin C is that people that are severely ill with this virus, they're being treated, not everywhere, but they're being treated fairly successfully and quick reversal of symptoms with intravenous vitamin C at 1,500 milligrams a day. Okay, and that appears to in people that have severe infections like sepsis. So sepsis is infection in your blood, pretty dangerous, and it's also been shown to be helpful. So high-dose vitamin C IV helpful in patients with adult respiratory distress syndrome, and this has been studied even before this viral outbreak. Okay, so the third, so that's 2. We got vitamin E, we got vitamin C, and we're specifically talking about antioxidants. Okay. The third one is glutathione. It's the most famous one. Glutathione was discovered 132 years ago in baker's yeast, and it was identified chemically in 1922. You don't need to know that, but that's how long they've been looking at glutathione and what to do with it. Okay? What it does is indirectly quench, gobble up peroxyl radicals. Okay? It's a tripeptide, and the reason it works is one of the peptides is cysteine. Okay? Cysteine, here's some chemistry for you. Cysteine, yeah, Colton, I can come teach at Mizzou. Just run me up the flagpole, see if they'll hire me. One of my students from last year. Cysteine has a free sulfhydryl group, so that's SH in chemistry language. What that does is it attracts attack by free radicals. So free radicals like to attack cysteine. That's why glutathione is such a good antioxidant. So if you have a free sulfhydryl group, and it's kind of like a choice between, so if you're a free radical and you think, okay, well, I'm going to eat this phospholipid, or I'm going to go eat this sulfur atom, I'm going to go after the sulfur. So that's why glutathione seems to be helpful. Okay, so glutathione, and all of these, like I said, all of these are available almost anywhere. Vitamin C is severely depleted. Hola, here, Corey. I'm going to give a shout out to your wife. There's a variety of ways to do this. Nobody's doing intravenous injections of meds, although vitamin D they do vitamin D. But you're not going to drop an IV in yourself to get these supplements. So you got to take them sublingually, you got to take them orally, you got to get them in your diet. So Corey, who just joined here, his wife is a member of the LifeWave community. One of their patches, it's a phototherapy patch, photolight patch from LifeWave, is glutathione. Okay, and then they have another LifeWave, I think it's called 39 patch, that's an immune booster. So you can look at that as well. It's just, you know, different mode of a different mode of administration. So glutathione, they do have a patch called the glutathione patch. Okay, so those are the those are the three big antioxidants. Okay, so let's go forward. What else can you do? So vitamin D. Okay, so I've done obstetrics and gynecology. I've done functional medicine. I've done anti-aging medicine. I've done menopausal medicine, andropausal medicine, and addiction medicine. And when you're talking about, oh, Shannon, I'm getting to that one. I've done it. So one of the things I was trying to figure out was, people ask, well, what's the most common thing that you see or people complain of? And I said, well, that's easy. It's fatigue. Or that sentence, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I had the hormone thing figured out. I had the vitamin things figured out, et cetera, et cetera. What I hadn't figured out was everything was perfect, labs, all that, but they were still fatigued. And about 5-6 years ago, I started checking vitamin D levels and found that at least in my population, 90% of those people had a vitamin D level that was in the low normal range, or it was under 30. So 30 to 100 is standard. That's every lab gives you that normal range of 30 to 100. An ideal vitamin D level, this is from orthopedic people, to prevent osteoporosis. I'm trying to get rid of that, and I'm also trying to get rid of fatigue. An ideal vitamin D level is about 60 to 70, 65. That's from anti-aging research. Almost everybody's in the low 30s. And then 4 years ago, I got people to really start taking their vitamin D when they came out with a study that showed that a vitamin D level of less than 30 had a higher risk of death from all causes. Okay, and there's somebody that's on here that that I know from years past who is in the Caribbean or the Bahamas or someplace fairly often. Great tan, so sun is supposed to give you vitamin D, correct? Everybody says, oh, 15 minutes in the sun will get your vitamin D up. Well, it doesn't. So this person, and her husband actually, who had great tans, had vitamin D levels of like 11 and 12. So if the sun does it, it's not doing it, at least for them. So I saw a lot of vitamin D deficiency and low normal vitamin D. Okay, so what do you do with vitamin D? Okay, so if you're low, you need about 10,000 units a day. And that's kind of what people are saying for low vitamin D. If you get a reasonable vitamin D level, you can probably get by with 4,000 or 5,000. Most people take 1,000. And there are people that I would tell would take 10,000 and they would get the 1,000 and they were taking 10 times lower than I really wanted them to. The frustrating thing about vitamin D is they all look alike. So you have to read the label. You have to see what you're doing. Okay? Okay. Vitamin D, as far as your immunity, it's a big, strong immune thing. It also protects your bones. It reduces risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer. And it is a big deal as far as depression. So people who have low vitamin D levels tend to have depressive symptoms, not necessarily anxiety, but depressive. Okay, so vitamin D for the immune system is involved in monocytes and macrophages. Okay, what does that mean? So there's not really another name for a monocyte or a macrophage, but it's part of your white blood cell line. Okay, and your blood cells come from your bone marrow. Red cells have their own line, they have their own stem cells. White blood cells do as well. And your main immunologic white blood cell is lymphocytes. That's involved in the attack on this coronavirus in the lung when it attaches to the lung cell. Well, what tells the lymphocyte that what's in the lung is a problem? That would be a macrophage. And macrophages are made from monocytes. It's a big white blood cell. But macrophages are your first defense, specifically in the alveolus, your little lung sac, where you exchange O2 for CO2. So in those cells are macrophages. So that's the first defense against a viral infection or pneumonia or bacterial pneumonia or whatever. And what the macrophage does is try to engulf that foreign body, and it's calling the troops. So that's what gets a lymphocyte to start attacking the foreign body. So it's kind of a big deal. So vitamin D is an all-around just great hormone that most people don't take enough of or have enough of. Okay, zinc. I recommended zinc, and I actually got the idea from a friend of mine in Oklahoma City, a physician, who said, okay, here's the vitamin C doesn't work. And he's probably right if you're already sick, although I told you high-dose IV vitamin C and ARDS seems to help. So he made the statement, zinc at 50 milligrams a day, which is about twice what the recommended dose is, recommended daily dose. So zinc at 50 milligrams a day, short-term. Another physician, I mentioned, well, maybe that's too high of a dose for too long. Another physician disagreed. He said he thought 50 to 100 milligrams a day was okay. And then if you become symptomatic, you go to 180 to 220 milligrams a day of zinc. Okay, that is being used in COVID patients, higher dose zinc. So zinc is essential for immune function. Zinc is the second most common metal in your body, the first being iron. Okay, 30%, here you go, 30% of older adults are zinc deficient. Okay, so they initially thought, well, you know, this is very dangerous for older people. It's attacking younger people as well. But zinc deficiency contributes or can contribute to diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, atherosclerosis, and impaired cognition, read Alzheimer's. Well, those are all diseases or problems that older people face a lot. And a lot of the aging problem has to do with hormone deficiencies and nutritional deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. This kind of goes along with that. Okay, so you know the foods that so vitamin D, you get sunlight. I'm going to give you some dietary choices for most of you. So vitamin D, sunlight, right? Most people don't, and I told you about the two that have suntans that have terrible vitamin D levels. Vitamin C is fruit, you know that. So enough, you get enough vitamin C deficiency, you get scurvy and your teeth fall out, right? Okay, so the dietary recommendations, just like your mom told you when you were a kid, Eat your vegetables, eat your fruit, just eat a balanced diet. Okay? So you could probably do all this if you just pay attention to your diet. And a balanced diet is not McDonald's or Taco Bell, whatever. Okay? Okay, in food for zinc, red meat and oysters. You're going to find that a lot of these supplements are best found in animal food, and some vegetarians run the risk of having significant nutritional deficiencies, which leads to other things. So, quickie clinical story. When I was in Bolivar, Missouri, I had a 62-year-old that came in to the emergency room with vaginal bleeding, and she had very easy to figure out. You do an exam on her. She had cervical cancer. You could see it. All you had to do is look at it, and you're like, okay, this is cervical cancer. And when I told her this is what she got, she said, oh, but Dr. Tracy, I've been a vegetarian for 20 years. And I said, well, that has absolutely nothing to do sort of with cervical cancer, since that's a viral infection, basically, that's how it starts. But her, when I did her blood work, her CBC, complete blood count, her hemoglobin level was 5.1, normal is 12, 11 and a half to 12. So she was severely iron deficient and severely anemic, because she didn't, she had been vegetarian for so long, she didn't have another source of iron. And so I understand the vegetarian lifestyle and the vegan lifestyle. It's not for me. But a lot of these things we're going to talk about, you can't get in a vegan diet or vegetarian diet necessarily. Okay, so I told you the prophylactic dose of zinc, 50 milligrams a day. I had one physician say do that short term. I kind of feel that way. Another physician says nope, 50 is fine. The typical dose, like I said, is 15 to 25 milligrams. And it helps men with prostate function. It helps them with their testosterone, etc. So most older men, 50 or older, should be taking zinc in. Okay, next, vitamin A is a retinoid. Think about this with your eyes. Okay, interesting that I found on this, and I had not known this. In preschool children, if you supplement their vitamin A, and of course this is not a study done in the United States, I think it was done in Africa, it has shown to decrease morbidity and mortality from measles, HIV infection, and malaria. Okay, so we'll talk about the quinones, chloroquines, and all that later, because there's kind of a natural way to do that as well, and I learned that from another physician friend of mine. So, malaria. So, I'm not insinuating that malaria is the same thing as coronavirus, but hydrochloroquine and chloroquine are the prophylactic preventive malarial drugs that people take if they're traveling to high malarial areas, such as Africa. Okay. What they don't think vitamin A does is have a direct effect on cytokines and lymphocyte production. So remember, from Monday, cytokines are part of the inflammatory or immune response. The cytokine storm is what causes the big, huge problem in the lungs. Okay? But vitamin A is fundamental, and so it's not making cytokines. It's not making your body make cytokines or lymphocytes. But it is important in maintaining the integrity of epithelial cells. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, epithelial cells is what lines the tissue of your body. So you have epithelium all over the place. It's called endothelium in blood vessels. And it's specifically, vitamin A deficiency specifically pathologically alters the lining of the respiratory tract epithelium. So the lining cells of the respiratory tract. Okay? It's also shown with vitamin A, 6,500 international units a day has been shown to decrease tumor necrosis factor. We talked about that Monday in the lung. So that's part of the cytokine and inflammatory response. So vitamin A, and if you've got a cytokine storm, if you get too much tumor necrosis factor and you get too much cytokine, that's what seems to be leading to this big lung whiteout thing. So you can decrease I'm thinking potentially the storm. Of course, if you're having cytokine storm, you're in an ICU and you have a physician hopefully overseeing you. But it does decrease tumor necrosis factor production and does decrease a cytokine storm. Okay, that paper I found was from the year 2000. So none of this is brand new. None of this part that we're talking about is brand new at all. Food sources for vitamin A: fish, eggs, and dairy. Again, animal products. You don't get vitamin A that much from plants. Although there's probably a dietitian out here who's going to argue with me. Okay, garlic. Not only is garlic wonderful and should go in every food except pie and cake, and that's debatable for me. Garlic is a tasty thing. It's good for your heart, and it's just overall good for you. So it's an anti-inflammatory food additive, or garlic, and it's also antiviral. Okay, it enhances your immunity by stimulating your white blood cell line, and it specifically helps you make macrophages and natural killer cells. So the natural killer cell is part of that inflammatory response, and it is a direct line from a stem cell in your bone marrow in the white blood cell production. So lymphocytes, there's a lymphocyte arm of leukopoietin, or formation of white blood cells from stem cells in the bone marrow. Natural killer cells come directly from the stem cells. It doesn't have to go through a maturation process like most white blood cells and red blood cells. So natural killer cells are basically the stem cells by, okay, we're going to make natural killer cells. So part of your immune system, part of your immune response. Garlic also boosts glutathione levels, and we talked about that earlier. And it also helps support healthy platelet function. Okay, so platelets, and I could do a whole live hour-long talk on platelets and how I think about platelets, but platelets are thought to, the platelets, most people think of as far as blood clotting. I think of them as a healer. So the whole point of having platelets is to heal trauma, especially in the long term. Okay. So that is garlic. Just eat your garlic. It's good for you. Turmeric. This is probably the most studied supplement as far as anti-inflammatory properties there is, really. So turmeric is one of those things I tell people when I health coach them, if you're over 40, take turmeric. Because most of this inflammatory stuff starts getting you when you're in your 50s and 60s. So it's hard to absorb, so you could say, well, I'll just eat a bunch of cumin and curcumin and all that, but it's hard to absorb, so you have to find a good absorbable supplement. And it is a potent scavenger of reactive oxygen species. So this is the stuff we're talking about, the free radicals and the oxygen groups and peroxyl groups. So it fights oxidative stress. It's very well studied. It's been around for a long time. There's just study and study and study after in the medical literature on turmeric. And most of these studies, by the way, I'm not looking up, Ralph's Internal Medicine Journal. Most of them come from this book. I don't know if that's backwards on your screen. Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. That's how big it is. No, I haven't memorized it, and neither has your doctor. Because doctors Google stuff too. There's no way you can keep all that in your head, so you have to have a book. Okay? So, next one is selenium. We talk about selenium with glutathione. Selenium's interesting. If you study old age populations, selenium levels are usually high in people that live the longest. Okay, so parts of the world where they have the oldest living people have high selenium levels. And I think really Japan's one of the oldest living groups of people there are that are doing kind of the same societal stuff that we do. Okay, so selenium supports against antioxidant damage, It helps maintain the thyroid gland function and the immune function. It's shown to enhance viral defense against HIV. Sorry, not HIV, the swine flu, H1N1. Okay, so that one was studied back in 2002. No, sorry, 2001 was the swine flu, 2008, 9. So they found that selenium was active against the swine flu viral outbreak of that era. Okay, the food sources of that are seafood, cereal, and meats. Selenium in vegetables and milk and fruit is lacking, so you can't get adequate amounts of selenium from those. Okay, so somebody on here asked about N-acetylcysteine or NAC. So the N-acetylcysteine is a precursor to glutathione. So glutathione is the one we talked about in addition to selenium. That's from the baker's yeast. So glutathione is very well studied antioxidant. Okay. N-acetylcysteine specifically supports bronchial and respiratory health. Okay, it supports the immune system. And interestingly, I found a study in 2008 where they looked at now when I say postmenopausal women, because you're either menopausal or you're not. So, but postmenopausal women or women in menopause, and found, so they measured oxidative stress markers. I told you about some of these labs that you can do to measure the inflammatory markers of your body. Do it all the time. And so they compared women from 30 to 49, and then baseline women that were menopausal. So menopause is usually, I don't think it's changed much. 51.4 years is the average age of menopause in the United States. It's been that way for a long time. So if you measure menopausal oxidative stress levels, which are higher than women in their 30s and 40s, if you put them on an N-acetylcysteine, you can get their oxidative stress levels back to the level of a 30 to 40-year-old. And that's kind of the whole point of why I do hormone replacement therapy, even in women in their 40s, is to try to get their levels back to where they were when they felt the best, around age 30. So N-acetylcysteine, with their antioxidant properties, is able to do that. So you're reducing the potential of chronic inflammatory disease, which, inflammation is kind of is the basis of disease, in my opinion. That and hormone deficiency. Okay, so N-acetylcysteine in food: beans, lentils, spinach, bananas, salmon, and tuna. Okay, so that gives you an idea for NAC, or you can take it as a supplement. Okay, the other one I ran across was licorice, or licorice root. And that has also been shown and studied to have activity against the original SARS-CoV virus of 2002. So that was identified in 2003. And the licorice root, especially if you start getting a cough, but licorice root is active against the original severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus type 1. We're doing coronavirus type 2. Okay, so those are the biggies. The other ones that I've read about, and I didn't want to make this go too long, and if you want more, I'll do it again Friday and do these other ones. So B complex, vitamin B is your stress vitamin. We're all stressed out. The whole dang country is stressed. So take your vitamin B, or just eat right. Okay, astragalus, elderberry, back and forth on elderberry. I've heard bad, I've heard good. Elderberry syrup is pretty easy to get or even make. So elderberry, it's been kind of conflicting what I found on elderberry. Andrographis is another one. Echinacea, you've heard of echinacea before. These are, not as much information on those. Propolis. And then I'm going to give some kudos to this physician friend of mine who's on this, I think, still. And I had never heard of this until last week, I think, so I looked it up. Black seed oil. So we were talking about chloroquine and hydrochloroquine, and the anti-malarial drugs. Okay, so there was a video that a chiropractor in St. Louis did last week, I think, 9 million views on this thing. He was talking about tonic water. It's got quinine in it. So this other physician friend of mine said, well, you can get that. It's got thiamoquinone in it. It's black seed oil. The scientific name is Nigella sativa. Okay, it is a healing herb. And from when I looked at this, all these studies all over the world, this is an ancient herb. It's been known since ancient times, and folklore. It's been studied medically. It's been studied well. They're just not going to do that in the United States. The United States pharmaceutical companies are not going to study black seed oil, trust me. Okay, so this is the things that it's been used for and studied and shown to improve. So it's an anti-diabetic, it's an anti-cancer oil or herb. It enhances your immune system. It is an analgesic. It's antimicrobial. It is anti-inflammatory. It will reverse liver and kidney damage and protect you from getting liver and kidney damage. And it's an antioxidant. Okay? It is worldwide one of the most top-ranked evidence-based herbal supplement in history. It's a big deal. I've never heard of it. So thanks, Jim, for putting me onto that one. I spent some time looking at all that. It's kind of amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I put a list up of some of these last week, and then I added to them. So when I get done here, I will put in the comments, I'll put a list with a link to all those supplements. Take them, don't take them, completely up to you. Check with your doctor. One of my patients from Oklahoma City last night said, well, I've got zinc and elderberry. I don't know if I should take it without checking with your doctor. Well, I am a doctor. I just don't practice. You're probably not going to get in trouble, but I'm not going to tell you this is going to fix anything. I'm not telling you have to take a supplement. You probably eat right and get all of this for the most part. But I'll put up a list with links so that you can look, shop, do whatever you want. And then I'll come back on Friday and we'll talk more about some other stuff. So this is kind of an ongoing learning, different information all the time. Hopefully I can get some more studies out of China and from that New York ER doctor. I started following him on Twitter. I sent him a tweet. He hasn't responded. But there's that, like I said, I put up earlier this week, I put up a New York Times done video of doctors that are thinking outside the box on this virus. So I will see you all Friday morning if you want to join me. And thanks for listening. I went a little longer than I wanted to, but I'm 5 minutes less than I was Monday. Talk to you soon. Send me a comment if you want to Zoom meet on something. Let me know. I'll set it up. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.